And we are back. We're here with Jonathan and Mark from White Tie Rock Ensemble. Now, I know each of you guys personally, but before we begin, can you introduce yourselves for our viewers and explain what parts each of you guys play in the band?
All right, I'm Jonathan Clark, and I play the bass, sometimes play the violin. I write out the strings part for the tied-up quartet, and I sing background vocals.
My name is Mark Ellis. I'm lead vocalist in the band. I sometimes play guitar, and I'm the merry prankster as well.
Now, some of the members of your band are kind of known as all-stars in the local music scene. Is that what you guys set out when forming the band, or did it just happen to fall into place that way?
Yeah, I knew all of these, well, most of these players from being around, in Pensacola. But Jerry and I at the time were kind of talking about forming something, and our first idea was actually to do a Police cover band. So that was the idea a long time ago. And then he knew Joel from back in the day in Nashville, and Joel was in Birmingham moving down here. And so I called Mark and I said, "You want to do this?" And everybody said, "Yeah, let's get it rolling."
Jonathan, when he called me, I had quit the music business. I was done. I had quit performing, and he called me to do one show, and that was Dark Side of the Moon. And here we are, 9 years later?
Yep.
And you guys, when you guys started out, you guys didn't start off just boom. I mean, I remember seeing you guys in a high school auditorium.
Yeah, well, it's Washington High School. That was our alma mater. So we had, our first show was actually in PLT downtown. And then we were able to get the Washington Theater, and we wanted to bring kind of the orchestra in at some point. So it worked out real well for us. But yeah, you have to, this is an organic process, and we've been lucky to grow it from the ground up.
For those in our audience who don't know you guys, can you tell us what tie, I'll learn how to speak, what White Tie Rock Ensemble is all about? And how do the white ties fit in? Was that just the theme you guys went with, or?
Well, go ahead and tell us about what we're about, Mark, and I'll explain where the white ties came from.
Well, White Tie Rock Ensemble is a unique outfit. So not only are we, classic rock musicians, all of us cut our teeth on growing up on classic rock, but we also incorporate classically trained stringed instrumentalists that you can see behind us in the picture there. So that is our thing, if you will, classic rock with a classical twist.
Yeah, and keeping that music alive. I was a violinist growing up, my entire life. And when you're playing in the Pensacola Symphony, it's pretty much a 1700s classical cover band. So, bringing that into the world of rock and roll, and instead of doing Mozart and Bach and Beethoven, you're doing the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd. So that was kind of the role that we wanted to play. But the ties comes from my jazz instructor from my freshman year at PJC. His name was Tim Jackson. And we were getting together to play a jazz group, little quartet. And he says, y'all need something that will kind of tie everything together. Like y'all could all wear red ties and be the Red Tie Jazz Ensemble. So when we were looking for the name on this, we ended up that night, we were the White Tie Jazz Ensemble. So when we needed a name, I was like, guys, White Tie Rock Ensemble. And here we are.
Now, one of the other unique things about you guys is that you guys do the full album experience. Or you'll do full themes where you might do, you've got a glam rock show coming up. What made giving audiences the album experience so important to you guys?
Well, all of us are music fans, and, myself, I've been fortunate enough to be on both sides of the stage. I've been to 1,000 concerts like you, David. I saw the Grateful Dead over 100 times, so I know what the concert experience is about, and I always wanted to see, full records played in their entirety by a band, which none of the classic rock bands did back then in the 80s and 90s. They do now. But back then, nobody did that. So when Jonathan called me, he asked if I would sit in or play this one show and do Dark Side of the Moon. And I said, under one condition, that we do Abbey Road next. And he agreed, and that's what we did.
Due to shorter and shorter attention spans, some people say that the album is dead. I mean, do you guys agree? And if so, how does that make you feel? What does that mean to you guys?
Well, if you look at the first posters we ever put out, it said at the very top, the Album Preservation Society, which is TAPS. So yeah, and when we would start, it would say the album is dead. The era of the single reigns supreme. And it's true, but I go back to my classical roots. You don't see Beethoven's Fifth and only the second movement is played. If you're really going to experience these classic works, then I feel you need to experience them as a whole. And that was, what we really set out to do. Is it dead? Hopefully, but are we, hopefully not. But are we trying to keep it alive certainly.
Well, and with me too, I'm a deep cut guy. I would rather play the most obscure. If I had my way, we'd play the Exile on Main Street in its entirety. It's just not going to happen because people don't know all those songs. I mean, people had a hard time even knowing the songs on Abbey Road.
Yep.
Have any of you had experiences with particular albums or artists or memories from a concert that made you want to be able to share those kinds of experiences for others? So like for me, my very first concert was Harry Chapin. And then when I was a kid, it was listening to the Kiss Alive albums that made me want to have that concert experience. I know you said, Mark, something about the Grateful Dead.
Absolutely. Going to live shows, there's nothing like it. You can go in, walk in, and hear a piece of music, and your hair stand up on end, and get goosebumps. So really, our goal is to transfer that joy that we feel to our audience, and that's what I feel we do.
Now, if you've got to play a whole album, that means sometimes you're going to play some things that aren't the most popular, but other times you're going to be forced to play something that is ridiculously complex. What is probably the most complex song that you guys play?
The most recent complex song, because I told you earlier, probably Yours Is No Disgrace. But in terms of something we've done recently with some video, we had Kansas. And we talked about that off the air there. But Kansas, Carry On Wayward Son. It's a very great song. It's very well written, and it might be considered, kind of pop for the prog rock Kansas. But the guitars and the string stuff that we do, and the bass and the keyboard solos, the vocals, that's a really complex tune.
Now, as far as the songs that you guys enjoy playing the most, what song would you guys say would be the song you guys enjoy playing the most?
Well, for me, it's Most Zeppelin is my favorite. So the song remains the same. Into the Rain song for me is, my holy grail. That's my favorite.
Probably, I think recently what we love playing because of the audience reaction is Hotel California by the Eagles. I like playing the Eagles. I think the band does a really good job with the Eagles. So, that's always when I love it when we're coming to an Eagles show because there's such a breadth of material with the Eagles. It could go from soft to rockin', the double guitar solos. I just think it, fits us really well.
What songs do you or what song have you found that the fans enjoy seeing you guys play the most?
Freebird.
What song is it you want to hear?
Yeah. Freebird, man. We played Freebird a couple years ago, and we're going to do it at the ball field coming up here, too. We told the ball field when we were talking to them about playing, they said, if we're going to do Freebird at the end, you've got to do fireworks. So that's still a request of ours, but we played Freebird, and they went nuts. So that would certainly be the biggest tune we've played at this point for them.
Now, as far as songs, are there any songs that were B-sides? I mean, you said earlier, Mark, that you like some of the more obscure, deep tracks. Is there a B-side to an album that turned out to be one of your absolute favorites that you guys do?
Well, my favorite that we do is the second half of Abbey Road, and that's where it gets really obscure, where fans don't realize it's not really played on radio often because it's not a, greatest hits portion because it's segueing from song to song. That's my favorite. But what do you think, Jonathan?
Well, I think, when I had to bring up Brandy was one we did at our Yacht Rock show by Looking Glass, which is probably not a B-side, but it is a lesser-known song that I didn't really know that well until we played it. And that's what happens with a lot of White Tie music. I'll start, you really dive deep into the learning of these tunes, and you start to really appreciate it. Rolling Stones, not that we're talking B-sides, but I was never a huge fan of the Rolling Stones until we played it. And then you play the Rolling Stones, and you get it, and you understand what they're trying to do. And The Who was the same way. The Who is not one of my favorites. I was a Yes fan, Rush fan, but playing The Who, absolutely a blast.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to a break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk more about White Tie Rock Ensemble, your upcoming show at Blue Wahoo Stadium, which is coming up, as I understand, October 3rd, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we'll be right back after this break with White Tie Rock Ensemble.